what like specific handles can you give for people in their own discernment journey?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind, I don't have like some pithy 3-point answer, just kind of process. First, if you don't have a posture of listening already, it's going to be really hard to hear from God. So if you are genuinely trying to seek the Lord's leading over major decisions in your life, and you haven't created rhythms or spaces to really sense God's leading and even listen to him in that still small voice that we see in Scripture, you're going to struggle to get anything from him if you're asking him to communicate at the volume of culture. You know, the moments when there's like those big burning bush moments, I think those get written about in Scripture because they're the exceptions, not the norm.
Yeah.
And a lot of people that I've learned from about discernment, you know, really challenge you to think about the mundanity of it all, the boredom of just being faithful in the right direction over a long period of time. So first, I would say, you know, do you have rhythms where you can let your own selfish motives come to the surface, let your own shadow come to the surface, and also hold the goodness that is within you, the spirit that is within you, the call in your life that is within you? And do you have a place where all of that can kind of get into the mix while the promptings of God, you know, impact you and kind of nudge you and prod you? There is a time where, and none of this happens if you're not rooted in Scripture, by the way. Like there are times where going through the Lectio 365 app or, you know, reading through Scripture where like the psalm I read that day was exactly what I needed. I don't know why, but I never thought to read Joshua when I was contemplating transition. And when I first read Joshua 1 and that God calls Joshua to be strong and courageous like 7 times in the first 15 verses, something like that, it wrecked me because it was like Scripture was meeting me. But I don't think that happens if I'm just trying to rush through a Bible plan while I eat my breakfast, right? Like there's a posture of listening you have to have. I do think fasting is a really instrumental part. And I don't mean it doesn't have to mean food, but my wife and I did a season, and I'm not in the middle of it now, so I don't feel like I'm like losing my treasures or anything, you know, these are just things that we did. But we did a season where every week we would pick something, and it was like no TV 1 week, no social media 1 week, no fast food 1 week, no alcohol 1 week. And just having things that in your flesh you would impulsively run to just for rest or comfort or distraction. Just removing those things systematically over the span of several weeks just enabled you to take those little pockets and redirect yourself back to the Lord. So fasting was really, really big. And then another key element is getting around people who aren't afraid to hurt your dream or kill your dream, but who speak candidly.
Yeah.
You know, like Wade, with you and your story, I know you had courageous people who spoke candidly about what your future was, what your maximum influence for the kingdom could be. And they had to kill the calf of your own idol of the dream and help you do it in order for you to step into the new thing. So I had people along the way who I wasn't like thinking I shouldn't go plant, but there were some voices who were saying, Jonathan, I just wonder if you're actually best equipped to take over a pre-existing community. And I didn't think anything of it. No, Mosaic was never on the table. But all of those voices that I did allow to say things that were confronting and even painful for me, God then brought to the surface when his ultimate assignment came. Because then it was almost like ammunition for me to determine, God, have you been trying to say this to me all along? And maybe in my ego or in my ambition, I was resistant to it. And the last thing I'll say is I had a prayer mentor from California who I randomly got to connect with at a conference. And I asked him to pray for me. And again, it was one of those moments where I felt like God was just like comforting me and encouraging me. But the prayer he said was, you know, Lord, help Jonathan discern the difference between an opportunity and an assignment. And as we grow in faith, God in his kindness, I don't think gives us those fork in the road moments that are like the sinful thing or the godly thing. It's usually between like good things and the godly thing. Like there's a thing that you're not sinning if you choose, but you are missing out on the risk and the formation that could come if you chose like the God thing. And that was a really big part of my discernment process of journaling and prayer and contemplation of, okay, is planting an opportunity or is it the assignment? Is Mosaic the opportunity or is it the assignment? And ultimately that language was really beneficial for me.